What's up everyone? Today we're going to talk about why going abroad will change your life. So I was originally from China and then I came over here to America. I learned a ton more than in China, mainly because of all the news and also a brand new living environment that fostered me to accept more ideas, and especially if you're at a younger age. You go abroad, then you definitely will see a lot more different people around you, and that will also allows you to think more in different perspective, especially in the perspectives of the people who are different than you. And even nowadays, like marching towards 30 years old, I still would like to go out to travel abroad as much as possible. Hopefully more often. If I find more time, then I'll definitely go. For example, last year, 2022, I went to Europe for the first time. I actually wanted to go to Europe when I was younger in high school, but no money back then, so not much chance. And then now, getting older and older, starting to have more money, then I was able to go abroad slightly after the pandemic, like when the COVID cases were not too high. And when I went to Europe for the first time, I felt like, wow, it's actually pretty different than Asia, of course, different than America, also like a little bit similar at the same time. Especially in Paris, the streets are very similar to the ones in America. But the different things are the food and also the people around basically. Especially in Paris that I went to, lots of people, they know how to speak English, but in day-to-day life, they still speak French. I think that's normal, right? Because after all, it's not America, it's like France. The people are expected to speak French, yeah. When I went to London, wow, it's really beautiful. Like, I still remember when I was a kid in China, I learned about Big Ben, like the big clock, and also a lot of other British things. When I went to London, wow, it was like, finally, the stuff that I learned from the books are showing up in person to me. Wow, that was like the first time that I experienced this. So this kind of feeling, if you always stay at home, you will not get this kind of stuff. You will have to always go outside to experience this. And I remember in 2016, I went back to Asia. I went to Singapore, also for the first time, by the way. And when I was going to Singapore, I was a little bit cocky because I was thinking that, after immigrating to America, why would I still go back to Asia? And why do I go to Singapore? I was basically going with a friend. He was studying abroad there, so I just followed him to just basically have fun in Singapore. But then I recognized that after I went there, wow, the local people, they are super hardworking. They're like always working, always studying, and I, on the other hand, coming from China and coming from America, I was very cocky. I didn't study much. I basically just like goof around. I met some local friends there, and I asked one of them, I said, hey, what happened if you don't get good score from school, right? And then he said, oh, then you screw up. Then maybe for college, then you go to a not so good college locally. And then I said, what's the deal? Then like not so good college is still okay, right? And then he said, yeah, it's still okay. Then maybe just a minimum wage job. And then he said that if you cannot get to like local school, some people would just go abroad to some other schools in some other countries. Because I remember someone said in Singapore, the public schools are very good, but very hard to get into. If the people who don't get into local school, then they will just go to private schools. But private schools are not as good as the public one. And private schools are also very expensive too. Then when I heard expensive, then I asked, hey, what's the deal then? Expensive, then maybe you take student loan and you can still go, right? But the problem is like so expensive to the point where lots of people cannot afford. They would rather just go abroad instead of just staying locally, going to a private school. Now, this kind of stuff is like pretty different, right? Like if you are in America, you actually don't experience this because in America, public schools are pretty good, but private schools are even better, especially for colleges. And so usually in America, like people would go to public schools, and if you happen to be like lucky enough, then you go to private school. So that's like an opposite than Singapore. Now, if I didn't go to Singapore, I would never have guessed this kind of stuff. I would have never known this kind of stuff. So definitely, if you have the chance, you should go abroad to experience different cultures. Very fun, especially also the food too. If you are just like a foodie, then definitely you can still enjoy the food there if you don't study abroad. If you haven't subscribed to my channel, definitely subscribe to my channel. channel. In my channel, I usually talk about fun stuff, traveling, life in general, also money to everything. Welcome. If you have watched this video until now, giving you some extra points, actually going abroad would also allow you to meet your potential spouse. So recently, I watched one of my favorite YouTubers, Meet Kevin. He's like a personal finance guy on YouTube, also talk about stock, real estate, many things. Basically everything about money. And then he mentioned that he actually met his wife Lauren in Paris. These two people are from America, but they met abroad. So I also heard quite a lot of stories about people meeting their significant others abroad. If you're single and ready to mingle, then definitely going abroad would be a very fun way for you to meet the other half. Sometimes the life in your own home country might just be too expensive for you to experience things. I remember when I went to Indonesia, Bali, there were lots of foreigners, like lots of expats. Expat basically means like foreign people living abroad or traveling abroad in that country. And then I remember some local folks in Bali told me that actually more tourists than local Indonesian people living in Bali. Bali is a pretty popular option for people to travel, mainly to enjoy the water activities and also to see some mountains, some volcanoes. The main point is there were lots of tourists when I went there, and I probably expect the same still right now. If you have been to Bali recently and Bali has changed, definitely comment to let me know that Bali is already not a tourist place, but I probably would bet that Bali is still a pretty popular option. Another one is Bangkok, like in Thailand. Also similar style to like everything is cheaper, food is cheaper, entertainment also cheaper. Lots of people would just go to Thailand to have fun. Besides traveling abroad or studying abroad, working abroad is another very popular option, especially in the past 2 decades. Lots of people like to be digital nomad. That means they just work abroad, but they don't plan to permanently stay in that place. If you happen to have a job that allows you to live wherever you want, then definitely it's a good option for you to just travel around and then live in different places for a while. I personally have not experienced being a digital nomad. I feel that I might not be able to get used to it, because for me, I personally feel that either I go abroad to just solely for traveling, or I stay at one place for work. I feel like for working, I need to be set in a place to focus. Always just going around to travel while working might not be like a very good fit for me, just personality wise. By the way, talking about digital nomad, actually during the pandemic, lots of people move away from major cities, not only to travel or to live somewhere else, but also to cut down the cost. Because usually living in major cities like San Francisco, New York, Seattle, Los Angeles, these kind of cities are very expensive. People during pandemic, they have the option to just work from home, then they would just tend to move farther away from those kind of big cities. In a way, it's like better for your wallet. Subscribe, see you next time. Volcano, right? Is it in Bali or in somewhere else or in Surabaya? I forgot where.